Hey, hey, welcome back to our Small Moments, Big Impact podcast. We are episode 6 this week, Kiwi. Can you believe
Episode
it?
6, almost episode 7. Hey, if I can do one of these ones, is that
Seven.
still that's still still a thing?
It is still a thing, and I still don't really get it, but the kids seem to love it and crack up, so whatever works. So tell me,
I
how's your
don't think
week?
it's anything to get. It is what it is. Week has been good. We were chatting just before. It's just always busy, but just in a particularly intense couple of weeks at the moment with different events and chamber stuff and going away this weekend, which would be good. We've got dance concerts going on. It's just a very busy 2 to 3 week period, which I enjoy. It's good, but
Mhm.
looking forward to getting on the other side of it as well.
I bet. And have you had any small moments this week where you've kind of thought, oh, this could be something big coming through?
Um, no, I think we discussed the chamber stuff. Maybe a small moment at home, and it's probably a good little segue into our guest this week as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, very sort of busy, intense schedule for me and the kids and family at the moment. And Eloise, who's not far off turning 12, I'm conscious of like how I give positive feedback and reinforcement. I don't want to feel like I'm babying her anymore and being too specific.
Yeah.
Um, so a small moment I had with her, was it last night before? She sat down on the couch. I went to make dinner. I was like, "Hey, you," and she turns around, and I just said, "I love everything you're bringing to the table at the moment. Your work ethic, your energy, your drive, everything
Mhm.
you're doing, all over the place. Keep doing it." "Oh,
Mhm.
thanks," she says, and turns around and keeps going. So I didn't want to like, "Hey, I noticed this," and I noticed. I didn't want to go like too deep. It's more of a broad. Here's a bit of validation. You just keep
Mhm.
doing you, and that was hopefully like a small moment that will result in bigger things later on down the track.
Don't ever underestimate the level impact that will have on her. That will become the voice in her head whenever she doubts herself. So that is really special to give that validation. And I think that's one thing that our special guest today will go into a fair bit on the importance of validation, whether it's emotion, whether it's acknowledging somebody's journey or their hard work. So you're an amazing dad. And that's why I'm excited that we're going to have our guest on today. Do you want to do us a little bit of an intro?
I'm going to pull you up there for a moment because I've got some small moments for you. Which
Oh, tell
let's
me.
let's not be too humble here. You were recently announced as finalists again in the I've never been able to say this word.
I know.
Mumpreneur.
Imagine what it's like for me being multilingual trying to pronounce that. It's a tongue twister.
tell us, tell us
Oh,
about that.
I was trying to scoot by that one because I'm not good with with recognition. But so we were actually nominated for 4 categories. And I feel like anytime somebody takes the time out to nominate you, you owe it to then complete the application process. And so we have been selected finalist there was over 2,000 applicants, according to the email that we received.
Wow.
And we have been placed finalist in business excellence, in disability services, children's wellness, and championing women in our field. So it's incredible. They're going to do the awards in September, so mid next month, to announce the winners. But even being nominated in such an incredible platform, because everybody within the platform has to be a parent and have their own business. So that is the
Hmm.
requirement in order to be able to be nominated. So, I'm very grateful and humble, and we'll see what happens in middle of next month.
And those awards have opened up doors for you for small moments, like we had Sharon on recently, like to go to those awards, and that have opened the doors for small moments, which have turned into big impact later on.
They really do. They allow women to connect that are on the same journey because, we're not good at sometimes allowing ourselves to feel like things aren't going always great. So you always have to put on a front. You always have to turn up with your best foot forward. But what it does, it creates a community and a friendship where you understand each other's journey on a completely different level. And that's what it did for Sharon and I. For Cass and I, it was very similar. Although it wasn't an awards, it was a similar type of environment. So it's a really important and special place for me to build my networks and surround myself with like-minded, incredible women.
Unreal. So good. All right, cool. Well, let's get into our special guest for this week. We have somebody from your network, Dr. Kelly Bowers. Could you give us a quick snapshot about Kelly?
Absolutely. So Kelly owns a clinic called Mankind Network, and they focus on providing psychology services for young men. So young boys, youth, and adults. His passion is father, so he has created a fathers group that he facilitates and supports in Burleigh once a month. He's also very kind to agreed to have hosted a Celebrating Our Fathers, which we will do on the 2nd of September. That will be just an event to get dads together and do some fun activities, have a barbecue. It's such low pressure environment just to see the clinic and what kind of networks are out there for dads to lean on in the times that they might feel they might need a bit of extra support. And he's really done incredible things. I met him actually at a Suns event. So I think he's a bit of a footy fan like us. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that he agreed to come on and be our guest, because I think my goal for today is just for the dads out there to understand how important they are. So I'm very excited to
Mm.
have Kelly on.
So good. Now, I'm going to show our hand a little bit. We have pre-recorded our chat with Kelly, and we did have a few little technical issues with some lagging and so on. So I hope it's gone through okay. There may be a little bit where we're talking over the top of each other, like we're on the other side of the planet with the lags, but we'll give it our best shot, yeah?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's bring him in.
Welcome, Kelly.
So, as advertised, as promised, we have Dr. Kelly Bowers from the Mankind Network joining us. They support mental wellness for men and boys of all ages. Mankind work in functional, engaging environments while staying firmly grounded in evidence-based practice. They foster kindness and humility towards self and others and support clients to develop authentic self-confidence, gain clarity around their personal values, and translate those values into purposeful action. Dr. Kelly is interested in all things movement and equally enjoys learning about the capacities of the human mind and has completed dual degrees in exercise science and psychology. Please welcome Dr. Kelly Bowers.
Welcome, Dr. Kelly. We're stoked to have you here today. Thank you so much for your time. Before we go into it, I thought we could do a little recap on how we first met.
Sure.
We first met at a Sun's corporate event, and Kelly's table was next to ours. And we bonded very quickly over the way that we provide different but support services to the people that come to us. Do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown, Kelly, of what Mankind is all about?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks very much for having me on the pod. I've been really impressed with what I've heard from you both so far. So it's a pleasure to be here. Mankind Network was a passion project of mine for many years. We've just opened maybe 3 years ago, but it was something that's been in the works in the back of my mind for a long time before that. And I guess it kind of came about from trying to find alternate ways to provide psychology for men and young men in particular that might be more engaging for them. So in the past, I've worked in clinical offices, which are, quite small and confined. And when we have particularly a young person who's got some high energy and expresses themselves through movement, those environments weren't always conducive to, getting the best kind of engagement or the best kind of outcomes for that young person. So at Mankind Network, what we've decided to do and try to create is a space where we have more functional workspaces. So an example of that is we've got a half-court basketball court and table tennis and that kind of thing set up in our clinic here. And we really try and work on having a opportunity for experiential learning where we can practically get in there and have some play-based fun, but at the same time learning some valuable skills of how we might regulate or communicate or moderate different parts of our lives that we might need a little bit of support with. So we know that men and young men don't always tolerate that traditional talk therapy space. So yeah, the idea is just trying to create something new and different for them. That's how we came to be.
I love that you touched there on communication, Kelly, and I think what a lot of people don't realize that 80% of communication is actually nonverbal. You're not using your words or your voice. So to have that movement outlet, I think, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. We find even, particularly in those first couple of sessions, we might have a young man, for instance, who's coming in and maybe it's not his idea or preference to be here. Maybe that's been at the request of their parents. And we often find that kind of hesitancy to engage initially. So we find when we just step out and say, take the pressure off and say, hey, we don't need to talk if we don't want to straight away. Let's just go and move and have a bit of a shoot around or something like that. It's amazing. It even surprised me how quickly it was before young men would start to say, hey, you're going to ask me a question now, or hey, you're going to talk about something. But we find typically within, the first 3 sessions, by about that third session, they're coming to the door and we're saying, hey, do you want to go have a shoot around, or do you want to go on and chat? And they're choosing go and chat first. So, I think it's just that icebreaker and allows us to establish that little bit more rapport and help them feel like it's a more comfortable space to come and chat in. For others, we tend to still use a fair bit of movement in amongst our sessions. We might, step out and then talk for a couple of minutes and go and move around for another few and kind of come in and out of our room and our space where required too. So it's working well for us at the moment, which is great.
Kelly, it's a really interesting point you bring up about, working with young men and fathers and the benefits of having that, option to do physical activity. For me personally, I used to go to a gym for a long time, and then had a bit of an injury maybe 4 or 5 months ago that I couldn't go to the gym. So I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go buy a home gym. Bought the home gym, and my little guy, I've got my daughter's 11 and my little guy is 8. And my little guy is fairly active, not super sporty, much more of an academic kid. Put the home gym in the garage, and it became, hey, Dad, can we work out? Hey, can we do a gym session together? Which I never intended, didn't ask him, didn't pressure him, but it was just like, oh, I can go work out with Dad in the garage, a bit of like a father-son type thing. And I guess that's what you see every day with your work, like with fathers and sons, yeah?
Absolutely. That the role that fathers play is just so significant. I can't state it highly enough. There's plenty of research out there that tells us that when a father is engaged, not just physically, but emotionally, their child has significant gains in all aspects of well-being, even down to, reading and comprehension and that kind of thing. The role that a father plays is just so important. So it is an area that I am really quite passionate about, being a father of 3 myself and living some of those things, all the roles that we have to carry sorry, I stumbled a little bit there. The roles that we have to carry as a father is, quite significant. So even myself, I'm someone who is, has a fair bit of awareness and some education, maybe above, what the average person might, but I still get it horribly wrong sometimes and make mistakes and find parenting, really hard on some days. So if there's any role that we can play to be supporting dads to better understand themselves and their roles and how they can connect better with their kids, then that's something that we absolutely want to be promoting.
What are some practical pieces of advice? Oh, sorry, there's some on that, like that, to that better connection and to put it very bluntly, like being a better dad, better leader. What are some practical bit of advice that you give out?
Yeah, no, very good question. I guess if I can lead in with a couple of things first, right? Just some little bit of research around this. 97% of dads say that fatherhood is the most rewarding experience in their life, the most important thing in their lives. Yet only about 19% feel like they have adequate time to parent and caregive the way that they ideally want to. So there's a big discrepancy there. From a generation point of view, our generation of fathers are caregiving 4 times more than the generation before and 8 times more than what our grandparents were. At the same time, we are still working just as much. So working in that provider role just as much. The traditional norms have been that men's main role is to be a provider and a protector, and that caregiving would often sort of defer or default to mother figures. That is absolutely shifting and changing. So dads are wanting to be engaged more. They are caregiving more, but sometimes they're doing that without actually having been shown how to do that themselves. Maybe they didn't have caregiving from their fathers or their grandfathers to the degree that they're trying to do that with their kids. So sometimes there is a little bit of a some skills that we can support them with to enhance the way that they do engage with their young people, just because they haven't been shown or they haven't experienced that themselves too much. We always start with then, we're trying and be really intentional about our action and the time that we spend with our young people. I guess the one of the main things that dads say to me, what they want is just to be present with their kids. And it doesn't really matter what they're doing, if they're, working out in the home gym, or if they're working in the garden, or they're just going for a drive or whatever. They just want to be present. And kids, as you found, Brent, kids just want to be present with you too, right? They just want to be, following dad and doing what dad does, whatever that looks like. I love the name of your podcast, about those little moments. And I think that's just so key here in parenting too, right? Because for me, it's about an accumulation of little moments of how can we be present in as many little moments as possible. It's not possible to do it all the time. We're going to have, days and times where we have competing demands and expectations on us, and we're wearing too many hats, which might limit our ability to caregive the way we want to. 19% of dads, say that they caregive, they have enough time and capacity to caregive the way they want to. So there's a lot more out there that feel like they are limited there, right? But, it's important, I guess, to try and win as many little moments as we can. And that's something that my wife and I talk about, of just, hey, this was just a moment, whether it's a tough moment or a good moment. This is just a moment. How do we kind of resolve this, repair, and how do we move to the next moment and make that as meaningful as that can be? And to borrow a bit of a footy analogy, I know we're all footy fans here, that if you miss a small moment, if you drop a mark or something, you drop your head for a minute, then all of a sudden plays down the other end of the field and you're conceding a goal, right? So how do you quickly pick yourself up and make the next moment count again here too? So that was a long-winded explanation for what you asked there, Brent, but I guess first point initially is that what is your intention? What is your purpose for this moment? What do you hope this moment to be like and to achieve in it? What do you value in your time with your kids? So having a definition and intention around that first. The second part would be looking at, okay, well, what actions or skills do I need to perform here now in order to make sure that moment occurs? What is within my control? What's outside of my control? But sometimes when those things are out of our control, it's very easy, and I'll put my hand up here first to say I'm guilty of this, to become dysregulated. So there's a couple of, communication skills and things that I think, are really important for dads to work on and in order to engage and connect with their kids. But before all that, there's got to come an ability to self-regulate, to be self-aware of when maybe, frustration is building, when overwhelmed from carrying, so many loads and so many hats is kind of there present. If there's stress from work or other relationships and that kind of thing, we need to be able to regulate that, take a pause there, so we can show up and be present for our young person the way that we intend to.
Because that was going to be my question to you, Kelly, as well. I love that, because I don't think we're taught that as parents, that it's okay, you're human, you're not supposed to have all the answers, you are very much allowed to be frustrated. And I'm just flabbergasted by those statistics, because there's such a big gap in there. So like for the days where you're like, wow, I've had a really big day, I call them my spoons. When my spoons are low, I always make sure to apply strategies myself before I come even into the home. What are some, I suppose, strategies you would use on a day like that for yourself? Because I think people look at you and they're like, oh, you do this for work, it must be so easy for you. But yes, it's probably easier than some, but you're also human. You're just the same like us, struggling some days and then exceeding others. So what are some strategies that you would use on the days when you're like, wow, I need to regulate before I go through the door here today?
Yeah, no, great question again. Look, yes, first of all, you're not going to get it right every time. And I'd actually dare say that sometimes it's okay for your kids to see you struggling a little bit. As long as they can see how you resolve it and work through it, that's actually really valuable and good information for them. If they don't ever see us as being this sort of calm kind of person all the time, and nothing kind of breaks us or hurts us, it kind of sets them up almost with a false perception of how they need to be all the time. But the fact is, we all have emotions. We only ever feel emotion about things that are important to us or that we really care about. So, we should express them and feel them. That's okay. At the same time, yes, being in that role as parent or father, we do need to be able to manage and regulate that a little bit, so we can do that for our young people. So for me, I try and follow I love acronyms. So I work with a little bit of a triple M acronym. And there's a number of different strategies that I use, starting with an M. And for me, it's just a variation of those that I might utilize each day. So that might be movement. Exercise for me, moving my body is massive. If I don't go for a run at some point throughout the week, I notice that my mental health, is impacted by that. If sometimes it's just moving away from the environment, it's a quick walk around the office outside before I come back. It's, that time in the car can be really valuable before I go from the office to walk back in the door. Music, big part for me. Again, that can be a real energy or mood changer. And can just sort of shift that momentarily, that mental state that you're in. Mindfulness is another one, whether that's just taking a mindful breath or just taking a pause and grounding yourself, feeling your feet on the floor, noticing, the wind direction or the hum of the engine or where the revs are at as you're driving home. Just things that are really kind of present to us right here, right now, just to ground and center us a little bit more, equally as important. Other times, it's mates, having a phone call with a mate just to talk nonsense and gibberish as we do sometimes. That can be resetting for me as well.
Yeah.
And the other one is just my mindset. So again, going back and being clear about, hey, what is my intention when I get home? How do I want to show up? How do I want that first moment to be when I see the kids, when I haven't seen them, all day long? What do I want that first moment to be like? And how do I make sure that I'm in the best state to achieve that? So I tend to try and choose, one of those 3 M's, and that's my triple M is my kind of little reset between the office and home, or, even the kitchen to the lounge room or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's a good little segue, Kelly. I often think of myself as, like, in my role as dad. So my wife, my 2 kids, I think of myself as the weather a bit,
Right.
as in it's my job to bring a positive, sunny vibe. And that doesn't guarantee they're going to have a good day. It could be very sunny outside. It doesn't guarantee any of us are going to have a good day, but it does put you in the best mindset and a good mood to go forward. So I try and think of myself as I'm the weather. I'm influencing the energy and the flow of the family. That's a bit of responsibility that I try and take. And as part of that, I try to be, and again, putting your hands up, you don't always get it right, but like, what sort of behavior am I modeling at home? Because they're always watching, and they'll pick up the behavior that I'm modeling. And am I on my phone too much, or like what am I doing? Am I giving them ample attention? Like, what sort of like chores around the house am I doing? What are some important like everyday behaviors that you think are important for fathers to be aware of that might impact their family and children?
Yeah. Again, great. Validation is something that I think is hugely underrated. So what I mean by that is, well, I guess as dads, that role, and men, we typically kind of just want to get in there and solve problems and fix things, right? That's part of that protector and provider, role that we've taken on. Sometimes we're too quick to do that, yeah. And I notice I do this with my own kids. They come to me and, Dad, I've got this problem. I go, great, let's go do this. And they go, whoa, hang on. Or they might get a bit emotional or overwhelmed about how quickly I'm moving. So just to take that time to pause, to truly hear them, to validate their experience, whether you agree with it or not is beside the point, but just to say, hey, sounds like this is a big moment for you, or you're getting stuck here, or this is what you might be feeling. That's sometimes just as a everyday baseline skill, I think is something that we underutilize. and can go a long way for our young people. We all like to be validated, right? But particularly our kids.
Yeah.
The same goes for, if they're wanting, something they can't have. They want, the classic example is they want ice cream for dinner, and we say, no, sorry, mate. You've got to sit and have your meal first before you have dessert. They might get upset and dysregulated by that. There's a role there for us to validate that experience too. And validation is not to be mistaken for giving in or not, sticking to an agreement or a boundary, if you'd like, for, what we're looking to do. But we can still say, hey, I can see this is really hard for you. I know it would be, you'd love to have ice cream today, and I know that it's hard when you can't. That's all we need to say. That's kind of full stop.
Yeah.
So just that point of being able to stop and connect is important. The other thing further that I'd say, as a phrase I'll always like to say, is connection before direction. Before we jump in and say, hey, pick up your socks, or hey, time for dinner, or hey, go get in the bathroom, can we find a way to connect with them first? How can we sit and enter their world? Maybe they're immersed in some of their play. Maybe they're on a video game. Maybe they're watching a show. Maybe they're reading a book, whatever it is. How can we go and sit side by side with them and show interest and engagement in what they're doing before we give them a direction for the, that next transition that we're hoping, we need to kind of get through that evening routine, for example.
That's brilliant. I really love that. And I also think the validation is really great in my experience as a mum. I also help them label their feelings and understand what's happening. So a multitude of things are happening there for them, I think, in those moments, to then them to understand, wow, I really do love ice cream and I really feel sad about it. And that's okay. I'm not, because I feel like my kids are growing up, and probably you guys are the same, in a world where so much outside sources constantly tells them what to think, and if they're right, if they're wrong. Nobody actually goes, wow, that's what you're thinking. Thank you for telling me, and leaving it at that. So I think
Yeah.
that was so well said.
I think there's a role for us as parents to do that as well, to model some of that. Myself in particular, I know I don't, I catch myself sometimes not actually, communicating with my kids about exactly how I'm feeling and what I'm needing from them at that particular moment. Usually it's just come out with a grumble or a grump, or, me kind of just walking out the door and I'm trying to regulate myself, but they don't understand it. They haven't sort of put the two and two together because I haven't expressed or communicated that clearly to them. So that model of, hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is why I'm feeling it, and this is what I need right now, can go a really long way, in having us all be on the same page and have that clarity about what we all need, and that opportunity for us to validate one another. When they come and validate my experiences, that's like gold, right? Because they're empathetic, they're understanding some of that social exchange, which is just so important for their development too.
I try and share as much business experience with my two, so like 11 and 8, about to be 12 and 9. But so I've got a marketing PR agency, and from time to time, clients move on, which is completely natural and normal for every business. And I'll say to the kids whenever that happens, got dumped today. Someone broke up with me. What? They could break? Yeah, they broke up with me. They've dumped me. And sort of talk about like feelings and why, like a little bit, and then also explain, look, those things happen. We're still a great business doing great things. There's somebody else out there for us, and we charge on. So I'm trying to, like, I go like, it sucks, doesn't feel good, but also try to teach that don't take too much of it on you. It's not about you. You don't need to put all that weight on your shoulders. Those sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So great.
And I think
Now,
it also
go Lily.
I think like doing it that way, Q, it also shines the fact that you can't always control everything, which I think is really important, even for adults to understand, let alone kids. You can't control everything, and that's okay.
Lily, do you have is there some sort of event or session happening with Mankind and LGO, or am I on the wrong path?
No, you're right. We're doing a celebration for Father's Day to celebrate all dads. So Kelly came in to see the clinic, which he was very kind to do so. And we just started again talking and bonding while I was too busy eating all the fruit off the fruit platter. And Kelly was just taking me through basically the clinic that they have and what it's like. And I really expressed how I would love to extend some kind of invitation to the LGO dads to start to create a space for them where they are able to go and, start building their community, I guess, a little bit away from everything else because the pressures of parenthood is so immense. And then I feel like everybody's problems are relative to them, regardless whether you have a neurodiverse child or a typical child. It's equally difficult, just in different ways. And Kelly was amazing in agreeing to do that together and to have his space. So we're going to go down to Burleigh at the Mankind Clinic. And Kelly and his team are going to host that for our dads and then also some other dads that would like to come along. So that it's free and we have a registration process. But Kelly, do you want to take us through a little bit of the format of what to expect for our Celebrating Our Fathers event?
Yeah, look, it's we know that accessibility for psychology services for men is really tricky for dads or non-dads, but particularly dads when you know wearing multiple hats, like I said, working in multiple roles, finding time for yourself is really tricky. One of the most common things that we hear and come across is dads feeling isolated and feeling lonely, despite being in and around, other people all day long. It can be a bit of an isolating sort of role to play when we're constantly trying to be the provider and be the person that's kind of keeping it together for everybody all the time. We tend to sacrifice some of our own time and will be the last person that we take care of quite often when it comes to our families. So we understand that some of the other things that make accessibility for services hard is the timing. When we're trying to fit in work schedules and family schedules and whatnot, trying to find time to come to an appointment is tricky. Having the right fit, finding somebody who we do actually connect with, which is a huge thing. And the financial cost as well. So one thing that we're really trying to do and we take a lot of pride in is trying to improve the accessibility of our clinic and our service. So we offer outside of appointment times. We try and be as genuine and as authentic as we can and match client personalities with some of the personalities of our clinicians and our team. But I guess this event, the idea was just to give people an opportunity to come in and see what a space looks like. For many men and fathers, they haven't actually even stepped in through the walls of a psychology office before. And that can be a little bit daunting based on, preconceptions they might have or past experiences or ideas, they might have heard or obtained, from past experiences. So an opportunity for them to come in and see the space to see that, hey, it's doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be high pressure. We can make it as accessible as we can. More importantly, though, to help try and form a bit of a network with other dads where they can have time to connect, to share stories, to share experiences. It's one thing to get advice and support from professional people. That's great. It's significantly more powerful when you're doing that with other dads, when you have shared experience and sharing other ideas with one another. So I think I have a stat here somewhere. Only 3% of dads said that other dads were their primary source of support. So, to me, that's wild. If we're all kind of going through similar experiences to one another, why not lean on each other? Why not kind of, say, hey, mate, what do you do at bath time when the kids just aren't, getting in the bath or they're not getting out? Or, how do you manage the before school juggle and run arounds? Other dads, equally have just as much important and valuable information to share. But also, again, we go back to validation, just validating the experience that, yeah, sometimes fatherhood and manhood in general is tough. And it's okay to find difficulties in those things. there's opportunity there for us to share some experience and connect one another and lean on each other a little bit.
Kelly, our time together's gone really fast, and it's probably very difficult to do this. But if you had a message for dads out there who might be going through a bit of a tough time, what's the overarching message or piece of advice you could give to support them?
Sure. What I'd love all dads to know, if there was one thing, would be that the power of pause is really quite valuable. If you can master the ability just to be aware of when maybe you're starting to get a bit overwhelmed or experiencing being a bit of burnout, and you can take just that, maybe it's only half a second, or 10 seconds of pause to stop, regulate, to think about how you want the next moment to be. How can you start to win just the next moment, an accumulation of lots of little moments, one step at a time. It's not going to be, Rome's not going to be built in a day. You're not going to do all those things on your to-do list all at once. But how we show up in that very next moment is something that is the only thing really that's in our immediate sense of control. So how we take that pause, how we regulate ourselves, how we show up with that intention of how we want to. That's one skill I'd love all dads to be able to develop and understand. Yeah.
Wow, what a great way to wrap it up. I love that message. And I hope everybody listening shares that message, because I don't think there's enough dads out there that really understand how much they matter. I grew up in a generation, it's going to make me emotional, because my dad grew up also in a generation where, and I'm not saying this is not true, where mum's primary and dad's secondary. Mum's primary, yes, but dad's still equally important, just in a different way. And I just hope that message gets shared really far and wide.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to get you on again another time. Sorry for the talking over.
No problems.
But
That's okay.
really appreciate your time and sharing all your valuable insights.
No,
Thank you so much for your time, and I cannot wait to our event, which is going to be on the 2nd of September, if my memory serves correct.
That's correct, yes. So hope to see as many dads as we can there.
And we hope to see, yes. And Mankind is putting on a barbecue, so I'm very excited. And we hope people can come out. They can also register on Eventbrite. So the tickets are free, but just for catering, it will help us if they register their tickets there prior to attending. Wonderful. Kelly, thank you so much again for joining us today. I love everything you've shared. I think it's so incredibly important that the work that you do, and keep doing amazing things.